Alright, let's go over the trade I took today, the loss on NASDAQ here. Clearly, as you can see, I got the bias wrong on the day. I mean, that's very evident. Let's just start on the weekly here. Kind of give my thought process and why I entered, and also how this might have been able to be avoided, or like what price did instead. So I was bullish because we're inside this bullish fair value gap here. Now, one thing to note is that we have bearish order flow. So yes, we're inside this bullish fair value gap on the weekly, but order flow is bearish. Now, if I go to the daily, we had, with yesterday's candle, already tapped into this fair value gap and swept liquidity. So what I was hoping for was today's candle to be bullish. That's what I was hoping for. Now, as you can see, we decided, I guess this sweep yesterday wasn't enough, and I could see why. We barely tapped into the fair value gap, so fair enough. And we started trading lower. But I was bullish coming into the day, coming into the AM session. Another reason I was bullish is because of these smooth highs above and kind of the jagged lows below. You'll see it better on the hourly time frame here, how smooth these equal highs are here. And kind of, we already swept liquidity here. It's more jagged, sweep here, right? No equal lows really below. So that was another reason I was bullish. And then if you go to the 15-minute time frame, you'll see, actually go back to the hourly real quick. I was using this from this low to this high as my 1 hour trading range here. And as you can see, we were ranging inside of that external range liquidity, those 2 points of external range liquidity. We were just consolidating within those 2 points. And then I did think that once I got stopped out, that this internal range liquidity could get swept and then we could go higher. But as you can see, just a bearish day. Now, so my bias was completely wrong. Now, the PD array. Now, I put quotations behind this because I don't normally use order blocks as a PD array. I don't usually use it, or use them, I should say. And in this scenario here, technically this order block was a PD array, or excuse me, technically this here was a PD array. It was an order block because it was, part of it was underneath equilibrium here, and we swept liquidity, and it was the last down candle. Okay, so we were technically inside of a higher time frame PD array, although I'll admit this was not an A+ setup. So the setup could have been avoided straight from there just by saying, I mean, it's not really my typical, I usually use fair value gaps. I don't see a higher time frame fair value gap that we're trading inside of. Therefore, I'm not going to enter, right? The trade could have stopped straight from there. Now, that's reason number one why maybe I could have not taken this trade. Now, reason number two is the fact that, was this really a good enough sweep for me to be like, okay, yeah, I backtested enough of this model to know when I'm confident and when I'm not confident in a sweep. This was one of those instances where it wasn't the cleanest. It is a sweep, and we were sweeping, some lows here as well, and we swept this low. It was, and we got the distribution, so it wasn't technically against my model or against my trading plan. I followed my trading plan, but there were a lot of if, ands, and buts when I was getting in today. Like, for instance, with the order block. Well, it's not my typical PD array, but it is a PD array. It's an order block, Okay, I could see price moving from here. And then, as far as the sweep goes, well, it's not my typical, like, I would prefer a sweep more like this, but it did still sweep. So if I'm saying but a lot when I'm fucking analyzing something, just stay away. Stay away. But yeah, I wasn't comfortable with the sell because of these equal highs above. And that's really that. Psychology wise, I mean, it wasn't that tough because I was in this trade for literally less than 5 minutes. So I was okay psychologically. Like I said, okay, cool, I can stop down. Let me go back test for an hour, and that's what I did. I back tested for the next hour of the AM session. So wasn't tough on me psychologically. And yeah, we just move on to the next day. This was a trade where again, I didn't necessarily veer away from my trading plan, but there were bits and pieces of my trading plan that were a little bit shaky, if that makes sense. That I might have been what's the word? I don't know. I guess I just wasn't looking for the absolute most perfect setup today because I've been itching a little bit to get into a trade, so that's also a factor that I have to take into account. It's been a while since I traded on my funded account, and so that's another factor there. But overall, not a terrible day. I think, well, I know I followed my trading plan, but I didn't follow my gut. My gut was telling me I probably should not enter this, but I was thinking, well, it's been a while, and I'm itching to get into something, so let me get into it. So I gotta trust my gut. At the same time I follow my trading plan, I have to trust my gut. I've seen enough of these setups. I've seen enough of the 2022 model to know when it's gonna play out and when it might not. So that's really that. But yeah, so that's the trade recap for today. Tomorrow's a new day. We'll see how today closes and what that'll do for us for tomorrow. It is a little bit difficult right now to form a bias because the order flow isn't in line with the PD array that we're inside of right now, which is somewhat abnormal, right? Like we have a very bullish PD array right now that the weekly time frame is inside of, and I think we could bounce off of it, but at the same time the order flow isn't there. The order flow is bearish, and then when you go to the daily, the order flow is bearish as well, but it's forming a little bit of and I know this is a retail pattern, but these things work. It's forming a little bit of a bull flag here, so I can imagine this fair value gap working. I think we'll see a bullish. I think we could see a bullish day tomorrow, but we shall see.